14. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is also a rezoning request. This is by John Owens, the property on the northeast part of town that is also currently split zoned. It is PRD, that stands for Planned Residential Development and Highway Commercial. The proposal is to include this property with that existing RM property that you see on the east and rezone it under a different pattern that is split between RM zoning on the northern 3/4 and then R10 zoning on the southwesterly 1/4. So the current pattern you see is PRD. You see the highway commercial and RP zonings along Interperimeter Road, and then residential zonings elsewhere. As described in your packet, the PRD is an approval from 2004. Back then, we did plan development approvals in the form of a zoning change. As you know, now we do it as an overlay over and above existing zoning. So this was zoned PRD based on a master plan, and it is eligible to be that master plan and only that master plan. Any major changes or deviations from that require rezoning, but for 21 years it has sat dormant. A copy of it is there in your packet. The applicant is now looking to do a different type of mixed residential development, and we'll get to that in a moment. Character area for most of the property is established residential. There's a small area of neighborhood activity center along the inner perimeter frontage. Keep in mind that is about the only point of practical access that they have to a road. Despite the long eastern boundary, that is a railroad that is between them and Jaycee Shack Road. The old master plan 21 years ago showed a road going across, but as you know, sometimes there's delays and challenges with getting access across a railroad track. Maybe one contributing factor as to why the property sat undeveloped for 21 years. Aerial image, mostly forest. This is from a couple years ago. There's a few less trees visible there now, but shows how undeveloped it is. One main feature to note, you see a power line easement traversing the property east to west. That's one of the main feeder lines into Valdosta. Still visible as a clearing. Imagery from around the subject property. This is from Jaycee Shack Road, looking westward where that power easement crosses. Still a lot of trees on that part of the property. This is at the corner of Jaycee Shack and Inner Perimeter, looking westward. So the subject property is there in front of you on the left. That's the very corner of the property. And it's currently zoned CH. And then the other point of access is the stub out street at Falling Leaf, where it abuts the R10 existing neighborhood to the south. That shows up there on your zoning map. But this is the stub out of the street. You see one of the public hearing signs. A better view when we get into adjacent properties. This is that stub out that you see back on the left, and then the last two houses that exist on the street. This was a stub out from that subdivision into future development. And what the applicant is proposing is this is where the R10 would be. It would match that existing neighborhood and simply extend this street further into the property to a cul-de-sac. Other areas around it, this is on the other side of Jaycee Shack Road. This is a developing subdivision that is quite a few lots that has recently gone under construction and will be single-family homes. And then up towards Inner Perimeter, really the dominating land use feature there is Perimeter Baptist Church. This is diagonally across to the northeast. The geography is what is more significant here. This is the current zoning pattern with the acreages. So the blue is the PRD, CH you see in the upper right corner is in red, and then RM is existing as RM. So all three of these are to be part of the applicant's new development. So the proposal is to go from this pattern to this. So the proposal is to expand that RM area to include all of the CH and a pretty good chunk of the PRD, and then the bottom left corner would be R10. The RM is multifamily zoning. Their proposal is to develop it as townhouse or townhouse style apartments. The dividing line between the RM and R10 is essentially a run of a tributary of Knights Creek with the wetlands feature. It physically divides the property between northern and southern portions. Their proposal is to match the zoning differences that way as well. When you compare it to the master plan from 21 years ago, this was that layout then. Again, you see the Knights Creek feature running diagonally through the property, so that part is roughly the same. The upper right, back 21 years ago, it was a mixture of multifamily, townhouses, and high-density single-family homes, which notice there are 2 points of access proposed, one of them being across that railroad track. And in the lower left, 21 years ago, was also proposed single-family homes, but at much higher density. I think this plan called for 37 houses, and on the applicant's subdivision design, it reduces to 19. So a lot fewer houses than what it was originally planned to be, but based on modern development standards. So many similarities between the two, but also some interesting differences. Proposed project for them, you see the single-family layout. This is a sketch, it's not an actual plat, but just to illustrate about how many lots they could fit there in R10. One of the things they need to look into in greater detail, of course, is wetlands and floodplain boundaries, how it relates to engineering at the site for drainage, but also utilities. And then in the upper right, I had asked for at least a phase 1 representation of what the townhouse style apartments might look like in proportion to the rest of the property. Their plan is to expand that kind of pattern a little further, at least to a point, but they may do things a little different. Keep in mind, this is not a planned development request, it is just straight up regular zoning. So what they are proposing is simply conventional style development based on the zoning pattern. They're giving you an example of the building elevation of the townhouses that is there in your packet. My understanding is they have built this very same building design elsewhere in the community. So again, a rezoning from PRD and C-H in combination to go to RM and R10. Staff's recommendation is to find a rezoning request consistent with the comprehensive plan. It stands for exercise of zoning power, which are there in your packet, and we are recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
I want to get a little bit, I think I got it, but I want to get clarification on it. So we're going from the PRD, including the CH in the upper right hand, including the RM and the RM down below, and they're going to take the bottom left section, like a little triangular wedge out and make it R10.
Correct.
And then the other will be RM on the 43 acre.
Correct. The proposal is to go to this map in the end.
Yes, right, okay, I got you. Okay, that's all.
And Matt, is there no physical crossing across that tributary there, or, I mean,
There's none that exist.
so it'll be a physical divide?
Correct. The proposal, I mean, it's based on conventional development standards. If they're able to mitigate the wetlands and get approval to go through there, they can. And that would apply to any type of development, but costly and kind of difficult to a point. And actually, the original plan had the same feature that was there. It did not show a crossing, although they had obviously not engineered their plan in great detail at that point. Applicant's engineers here, I know he's already been looking at that possibility, and I'm sure he's got an opinion on that as well. But staff's recommendation is to really follow their zoning line and let the natural feature be the natural boundary between the two forms of residential development.
Just to confirm, just based off of this layout, they would be held under 50 units until they
Correct.
have another point of egress.
There we go. Yeah, they're showing phase 1, and that is correct. When they go beyond 50 dwelling units, a second point of access is needed. One of the things that is likely to happen is that this northerly development will stub into the vacant property that is to the west. And I think those conversations have already started.
Thank you. Any further? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this case?
VA-2025-14, North Main Street Extension. Miss Vicky, as far as, crossing that canal, we don't have any intent to do that, because the neighborhoods they'll operate more or less independently.
That was my
We
question.
don't want multi-family, we want single family, and vice
Gotcha.
versa, you know, kind of, and they're townhome style, but, you know, they're just different uses, we'd rather not mix those two of them together. As far as for the safety going across, I've seen it multiple times in Matt's conversation and a conversation with commission, we'd like to have the connection, have the railroad, but, you know, railroads take time and they're expensive, so, there is a potential, there's discussions to go further west, there is a vacant property, the owner has been in contact with, and potentially that may be our second point of ingress, but we would have to figure that point out at some point down the road. Right now, we just want to rezone, to make sure this is worth going forward, for the developer, which starts doing his engineering. Matt, I did send a copy that had the overall layout, I think I got it too great, it's kind of great, I have the copy there, you know, roughly would be, you know, when it's all built out, somewhere 325 units is probably the number of the overall build out. The developer will build 50 in the first phase, and then, you know, 75 to 100, whatever the market says, you know, build at the time. Depending on how quickly things are selling, he's gonna take down the next phase, you know, and kind of go forward with that. We wouldn't develop everything at one time, you know, just kind of one of those, you know, as the market demands, you know, if we rent them all out, he's gonna start building more of them. If he's not building out quickly, he'll slow down. So, you know, the overall development will be about 350 units total with that 19, single family on the bottom, there's like 325 up in the top part, for multifamily. City and water are both available in the area, for us to use. And then, stormwater, proposal, you know, we want to protect that tributary of the creeks, we'll have, you know, stormwater protection by there. There's a lot of wetlands on the site we'll have to work around, most of them send that power line easement kind of going, you know, across the page to the right. There's a pretty, go back that picture, Matt, the one that previous layout. There's a wetland system that's kind of the same shape as that guy. It's changed a little bit in the last 20 years, just people getting on logging and doing stuff. But that's versus the wetland systems on the property. And again, we have a large feeder into Knight Street that runs through the property. So, with that, I'll take any questions. You don't have anything?
Actually, I know this doesn't have, what we're doing here tonight has nothing to do with engineering, but I do travel that road and I do see that most people can't drive. But the intention here is to bleed out all these townhouses 300 feet from a cut in that busy 4-lane road.
No, so my intent would be the connection built the southern end. I wouldn't want to put.
I'm just looking at these townhouses proposed
Oh, yeah, yes,
right
sir.
now.
That's the only access we currently have.
That's gonna be,
And they're capped at 50.
sir,
They can't have more than 50.
I get it, I do.
And you know, it's close to an intersection.
Well, I do know that, but I mean, it's gonna turn out, like I say, I know people can't drive, and you get the people turning out, and then they're gonna try to turn on that cut in 363 feet, and that's all I'm saying. It's just looks like a
We'll work with
cluster.
the city staff, because it is a concern for our city.
It gives them incentive to work with the property to the west where there's an existing median crossing.
Exactly.
Or you could put a ramp next to the railroad tracks where people can wash over.
I did one of those already, we're not doing those here.
I mean, it looks great, that's my only thing, that traffic bleed out's gonna be hard.
It is, and it's, you know, the challenge for a motorist going into that, they're already in the decel lane, the turn lane, you want left on the Jaycee shack that heads north. They would have to drive over that door area, which we're technically not supposed to do. We might have to find some way to push that traffic to Jaycee shack, or make it go further on down the river where they can't. You know, technically, we're not supposed to drive those door areas. Those door areas, you're supposed to get in it. I'm not gonna say people don't do it, because I see it every day. You know, people be there at the last minute, yank across the lane, but that's supposed to be something that's a ticket. It's not a loud movement. I'm not saying people don't do it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, at 55 miles an hour to 300 feet, if people pull that front end to get up there and get that cut, I mean, it's gonna be tricky.
We'll have to do our best to find a way to make them stay on perimeter, make the next turn, which is, you know, a mile and a half down the road, but still make it to go down Ace Electric and make the U-turn back or something like that to be the preferred option. It might become a right in, right out, like, you know, put all the places GI routes and some other places. There are options there. I'm not gonna suggest we engineer would prefer, but there are options that can be done to make it safe.
Appreciate you.
So roundabout.
But that's Wendy's.
They love them. They love them up there.
No further questions? Thank
I
you,
didn't mean to
Mr.
stray off, Mr. Martin, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this case? There being none, any further questions for staff? All right, we will entertain a motion on this case.
Mr. Chairman, regarding VA-2025-14, we request to rezone 49.92 acres from PRD and C-H to R-M and R-10. And I'm not quite finished, you're going to be patient. And that staff has found it consistent with the plan and recommends approval. I make a motion for approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hightower and a second from Commissioner Lightfoot. All in favor?